Oh, what?
Oh, it might
Deleted.
be because of me. It actually deleted it on your side when I logged in, but I can do it.
Oh,
Oh, no, that did the same thing last time. I had to like physically go in and change it. Like I had to re or here I can do it. I
weird.
think. Yeah,
Well,
it was very strange.
we're live on YouTube, so
Hey!
hi,
Hello,
Tube Land.
YouTube! Don't forget to
Um,
like and subscribe.
Yes,
so
and
just
bear
give
with
me a
us
second.
while we get this thing going on Facebook, and while we're waiting for our other guests.
And special guest Edgar Wright is joining us tonight, everyone. So
That would be really cool, and
sorry,
I
I'd
would
have to pull some
feel
strings to get that.
I would feel
Someday.
very upset. I redid it. I thought it was because it was me and like you weren't here but it told me that it deleted it. And so I had to like delete the whole thing and then restart it again, but it think we're live now.
Yeah, looks like it. Okay, good. Now we're live on both platforms.
Hey!
Hello, everyone out in Facebook land. Before we start, I just want to thank Rebecca for taking care of stuff while I've been kind of on a little bit of a leave. She is the bomb.com. So thanks, Rebecca. Here we have Derek. Let's add him in.
Hey!
So we might
Hello.
have one more person joining us tonight.
Yep.
But
But before we do, we're going to do a brief introduction. So, welcome, whether you are watching this live or on the replay. We are Movie Club with Dragonfly Arts and Creatives Collective. So, we do this once a month, where we discuss a movie that we all watched on our own time. So, if you would like to take part, you are more than welcome. We announced the new picks in the Facebook group, which there is linked over here, right? Or one of these corners, which you can't click on, but you can type in the address and find us. And then yeah, so then you can click on the guides tab and find out what we're watching for the month which you're
yeah,
joining.
we announce them on the first of every month. So next month's will be on Saturday.
Yeah, so we encourage participation in whatever capacity you would like. If you want to get in on one of these panels, let us know. We are always open to new guests coming in. We try to limit it to a group of 4, sometimes 5. So just to keep it kind of like the discussion flowing and not talking over each other the whole time. And I was going to say one more thing, and I lost my train of thought.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, I remember. We also encourage you to participate in different ways. So if you're watching, please comment and let us know your thoughts. You can comment along with the conversation or after the fact if you're watching on the replay, and we love to review and see what people were saying. And any way you'd like to participate in club, please do.
Even if it's just watching it.
Yeah. But we love the participation. So that is open to everybody. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca, who's going to give us a brief overview of our movie this month.
Yeah, so our March movie was Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which was released in 2010. It is defined as a romantic action comedy, which is a lot of genres all put together there, but also kind of accurate. It was co-written, produced, and directed by Edgar Wright. I am a huge fan of Edgar Wright. It is based on the graphic novel series Scott Pilgrim, which was written by Brian Lee O'Malley. And it's a pretty good graphic novel series if you guys haven't read it.
I haven't.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. It's kind of got an all-star cast in it as well, which I think is fascinating. It's a lot of people very early on in their career who are big names now. Like I kind of forgot that they were in the movie.
Right.
Yeah, I was surprised. I actually was shocked to learn that I had never seen this movie before. It's
Oh,
become
really?
yeah, it's become such a cultural zeitgeist, and I've seen so many clips of it. I was like, "Oh yeah, that movie, I've seen it." And then it started and I was like, "Wait a second. That person's in this? Wait, that person's in this? Wait, what the heck?" So,
I actually heard a review from somebody who did say something along those lines of they watched it when they were older and they were like, "I've seen this entire movie in like gift sets."
yeah. Yep.
Took me back to 2010.
Yeah,
Took me back to,
far past.
middle school because talking about like when the internet was new and kind of late 90s eras when it's set.
I wonder if there's like some of those movies where nostalgia kind of takes hold for them. Like, I don't know if a new generation would quite like this movie,
Hmm.
but I do still think that it is a very impressively made movie, which is why I heavily hinted that I wanted Derek on the call.
Yeah, what do you think of the editing, Derek?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the whole spectacle of it is pretty incredible. And I think like the compositing is basically perfect. It's a lot of the effects were done on green screen where like the characters are flying around or punching each other, but they did a lot of very smart things with lighting, basically lighting it practically. And I have the Blu-ray of this. I actually bought it like back when this came out, but I think I've watched it once, but I haven't seen it since then. But the Blu-ray has a bunch of interesting special features where they show like how the lighting was done during some of the fights. And one of the really smart things that stood out to me was they had this light switch that was like a punching pad. So like when Scott Pilgrim would punch the light switch, it would flash light, and the timing would be exact because it's his punch that's lighting it up, and that's very smart because doing like relighting a scene in post production is very difficult, especially back in 2010. Or, I mean, it was probably made in like 2009, but yeah, and relighting the scene digitally usually doesn't look that good. So they did a bunch of stuff practically, which was very smart. But anyway, yeah, that was my like long answer is that it's the spectacle of it is pretty amazing, and the green screen effects were perfect, basically.
I think it also helps that it's a comic book style movie, so it very much lends itself to, adding in those kinds of elements.
It's a movie about a comic book that references video games pretty heavily, and it has influences from all of them.
Yeah, and all they're all together nicely.
Just, it's got that Edgar Wright, like everything was intentional, right? Like a lot of movies these days, I feel like, shoot it wide, we'll crop in, we'll make it. No. This one had has dolly moves over multiple scenes. We have cross coverage over like different locations, and just it had to he planned all of it, I guarantee.
Yeah, I was very impressed. Well, I know Rebecca was going to bring up the transitions, but I was very impressed by them in like the fact that they move so seamlessly from scene to scene.
Yeah, he even does things like people will like who are in already cross things will like look over as it will transition this way, and so everything like he knows exactly how that camera move's going to take. Everything in this is pre-production, and this is always funny to me because I'm actually like a post-production person. Like I do photos, but I'm still like on the post side. And boy, I love a good pre-production though. I think everybody should put more money into pre-production, and I think movies would be a hell of a lot better. But unfortunately, that's not how movies are made, unless you're Edgar Wright and you force them to be done that way.
I mean, this bombed in the box office. This did terribly. And I don't know if I'm sure it's made its money back by now, but whew.
It was definitely a sleeper hit.
I mean, I
I
remember
didn't realize that.
Yeah, so I was in college at the time, and there were people were trying to get you to go back to the theater because it just tanked so badly.
Yeah, Pilgrim showed that movie to me long after it came out.
Right. I think it's one of those that definitely got the cult following as on a DVD release, but in theaters, I don't think people knew what to make of it. I think it was too hectic because it's not like any other movie, right? Sorry, I don't mean to dominate the conversation.
Yeah,
I just
no,
really
that's
enjoyed this
interesting.
movie.
For sure. And it was interesting to me because, like I said before, it's become such a cultural zeitgeist that gets referenced so often that it's like you would think that it would have been a hit when it came out.
The world wasn't ready. It was so ahead of its time.
Much like the last movie, I watched this with Ryan and my friend Johnny, and I really like this group because Ryan actually works in film. He's an assistant cameraman, so I always make the joke of he knows exactly when something is slightly out of focus, and I always know because he sits there and does this motion to try and fix the focus on the screen. So we have somebody who's very nitpicky, and then my friend Johnny, who doesn't watch movies unless he's watching a movie with me, and it is something that I have essentially forced him to. He was lost. He had no idea what was happening. He is not nerdy in the way that this movie handles, and it was very hard for him to understand what was happening until like halfway through, and then he was very much into it. But does my camera just keep flickering out at
No, I haven't noticed.
Oh, it's showing it on my end, and I was like, "Am I just disappearing randomly?"
No, you're fine.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's interesting because it jumps in head first and they establish kind of the rules of the universe pretty quickly. But if you're not prepared for it, like Johnny wasn't, it's a lot. Because a lot of, sometimes instead of being a little sight gag as they're doing a thing, it's an important plot point, right? And it's just we move past it, and if you missed it, well, sorry.
Right.
But for Johnny, once it got into the idea of the evil X's and the fights, then he was able to really focus in on, this is what the movie's going to be, and not the comic book that we were experiencing earlier.
Mm-hmm. Rewatching it. I mean, I've in the movie industry, I've not only been an editor, but I was a screenplay judge for contests. So, I pay attention to story structure and things like that. And this movie doesn't really have traditional character development. Because, for instance, in a normal movie, Scott Pilgrim might be attacked by the first evil X, and then he would lose the fight, and then he would have to train to sort of fight the other ones and win. But in this movie, Scott is kind of an amazing fighter right from the beginning, and there's no explanation for it. But another thing that might be, I think, confusing to some people is that it's never really clear what reality is. If this is Scott's daydream, he's fighting all these people, and I don't know, it is very interesting. It's I don't know, like I said, I love the spectacle of it. I don't know if I like Scott as a character, or I don't know if I can follow him on his journey. I don't know what his journey is exactly. He doesn't really change that much. He doesn't grow as a fighter. For a while, he becomes more depressed when it seems like Ramona, or he kind of sort of gets depressed by having to fight all these people, or maybe exhausted, maybe not depressed, but and then he sort of bounces back from it at the end, and Yeah, it is kind of strange, like from a story perspective. But like some people were saying, it is very unique. Like I don't think I've seen another movie quite like this, and it's almost certainly like the best live action cartoon that I've ever seen.
That's a great way to describe it.
Like
I mean,
Yeah.
we were watching John Wick movies. I think some of the fights in this are better than a lot of John Wick fights, just because just so many things happening and it's all intercut together and it's all choreographed beautifully.
It's all planned like down to
Just
putting the light switches into punching pads. Like
Which I didn't know.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's a really cool detail. And also makes a lot of sense.
right.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, another. Oh, I was just
No,
going
go
to
for it.
mention, like you were saying about like the transitions. A lot of the transitions were practical as well. Like there's one where he's in the bathroom of his apartment, and then he walks into his school or something.
Yeah.
It's like the hallway of his school when he walks out the bathroom door. That was real. Like they
Mhm.
really built the school hallway outside the set for the bathroom.
And Ramona's door is at the other end of the hallway, right? The door to her apartment or something.
she uses the subspace highway, which happens to go through Scott's mind because it's empty a lot of the time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
she's able to cut like a couple hours out.
Oh, is that
Which
where
is also never explained.
I
is that
mean,
where she skates along the sand in his dreams or whatever?
yeah, it's just
Like,
it's just a shortcut that she takes when she's traveling.
Sure.
She's a delivery person.
Not to keep bringing up Johnny, I just think he's like the best. Because I don't watch movies with people who don't watch movies a lot. Like it's a rare occurrence. And so I think we can define that just by at one point he goes, "Wait, is Scott just killing all these people?" Which on one hand you're like, no, it's metaphorical, like,
Yeah.
it's like a video game. But then at
Yeah,
like
yeah.
one point, Envy's like, "Well, you punched my boyfriend so hard he exploded," and we're like, "Wait one
Yeah.
second, are they dying?"
Yeah,
I thought so from the beginning. Yeah.
they
The
didn't say
whole
that
movie's
about it.
a metaphor about relationships.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's all, it's not literal, but the
It doesn't.
boundaries between.
It's transitional in its space of what it is. It's somebody trying to figure out who they are after a breakup.
Right. It's
and honestly, spoilers, I guess, even though we do this all the time on the call.
Yeah.
Spoil
If
the
you
movies,
haven't
that is.
seen the movie, maybe you shouldn't be watching this.
Yeah, the assumption is
well,
that those watching this
stop
have seen this.
stop the video. We'll wait.
Yeah.
And you can watch the movie.
Wait,
Do right
wait,
here.
wait. Yeah, we just warned them.
He shouldn't have ended up with anybody.
There were alternate
Agreed.
endings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they shot all three.
Yeah, they shot all three of the endings, and I think the Ramona one tested better.
What was, and I remember one ending he ended up with knives, and then, and what was the third ending though? I don't remember.
Ending up
none
with
of them.
nobody.
Nobody.
He needed to work on himself, which
Yeah.
I think is probably the better ending, but the comic ends with Ramona.
What was his other self called? Did they like meet up and become best friends? That could have been funny.
Oh, the Nega Scott?
Yeah,
Well, they said they're going to get brunch.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
gonna
They
get
have a
brunch
lot in
next week.
common, but I don't,
Yeah, that would have been a good ending. Like he needs to work on himself, and then he like
Exactly.
meets up with Nega Scott, and
then it's just him and Nega Scott just dating.
Yeah,
Right.
that would be weird.
Or hanging out like a platonic friendship.
Yeah.
Well, if he
more like that.
represents all his negative aspects and he gets to know,
Roommates.
he understands, right?
Mhm.
Opposites
does-
attract.
It does point out
There
though,
you go, Sam. Yeah, roommates. That
Yeah,
would be
roommates.
perfect.
They're just
Although-
really good friends.
would
Yeah.
Scott have been homeless if Ramona didn't take him?
He
at the
shouldn't
end
have been
there?
with any of his
No,
roommates.
he would have moved in with Nega Scott.
Oh, I see.
They all slept in the same bed in that house. Or
It's true.
on
Which,
multiple reasons at least.
again, we watched it with our friend Johnny, and yeah, he did not. He got a laugh out of every time. He's like, "What's happening?" But the idea of two guys sharing a bed platonically apparently was.
Right, yeah.
Along with
It was
like the
Canada, it
friend's
was
two
cold.
boyfriends.
Well, yeah, other people's boyfriends too, but
What a progressive movie. It was a gay polyamorous relationship.
yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, how big was that bed?
was
Because
pretty
it
big.
seemed small when
Mhm.
it was like 2 of them, and then there were 3 of them, and they were very cramped. But then there were like 4 of them, and it seemed rather comfortable.
It was a king
See-
size, I think, at least, or like
This movie has no concept of physics, so I don't
Right.
think
True.
it matters the size of the bed.
Or consequences.
I like the part where he jumps out the window. Oh, he's left.
That is my absolute favorite scene in the entire movie. It's such a like Abbott and Costello like
Yeah.
Buster Keaton-esque of just physical comedy and positioning. It's just the timing is perfect. I like this movie. I don't know if you could tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abbott and Costello is funny too. I like
Oh,
the
absolutely.
Halloween movie.
It's especially some of those are just they're timeless. Like the Who's on First, it still hits. I don't know if you've listened to it recently,
Not
but just
recently.
recommend it.
Oh my gosh, it's
Um,
gonna turn like 100 soon. All that stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's already in the public domain, yeah.
When was Ant-Man released?
The
He was
first one?
Yeah, 2015. Okay. So Edgar Wright also did the screenplay, and did he? Yeah, he did a bunch of stuff for the original Ant-Man. He actually put it on hold. He was writing it and then put it on hold so that he could work on this movie.
Mhm.
I mean, again, I wish there were more movies like it. The closest we get is Into the Spider-Verse, which plays a little bit with expectations, but this movie was the film.
The fact that this is live action and does that,
right?
Like for something that's animated, you have to go through a ton of storyboarding anyways. But this, you had to do a ton of storyboarding and then actually film it. And I don't know if it says like on the behind the scenes. I actually really kind of want to watch it now.
We should. The attention to detail too, right? Like as Chris Evans is coming out of his trailer, it's number 3, right? Like there's a 3 on the door, or there's his skateboard has a 3 on the bottom. Just weird, just little. It was perfect. Or the 7 evil X's was like in the sky. He's walking down the street and there's X's in the just
on the street signs and stuff. And he turns off his
just
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
or whatever.
And speaking of Ant-Man, yeah, I know like Edgar Wright worked on, or he did pre-production or something on the first Ant-Man movie, but the editors of this movie, Scott Pilgrim, went on to edit Ant-Man Quantumania. And they were also nominated for an Oscar for Baby Driver in 2017 or whatever. Honestly, they probably should have been nominated for this movie as well, for Scott Pilgrim.
My God, absolutely.
But, yeah, like the editing is perfect in this. I haven't seen Ant-Man Quantumania, but from what I've seen, it looks bad. Like the green screen just doesn't look good.
Well, I think they did LED wall a lot of it.
Yeah,
I will say the cinematographer was Bill Pope, famous for The Matrix. He also did Quantumania, coincidentally. He did a bunch of Sam Raimi movies as well. Talented guy. Yeah.
I think that those new those like LED wall sets, you have to be very very careful on how you do them, because if you guys watched 1899, they did it really well in that show. Like most of the time, like there were some shots where you could tell, but a lot of the time it was really surprising watching the behind the scenes and seeing that pretty much everything was done against that thing. It's really surprising, but
Brian probably has some ideas on LED walls.
A couple anecdotal things, but after Mandalorian, they got big. Like there's some in the valley, like just half a dome. But I think they're actually moving away from them again because they require you to have so much done in pre-production that it's putting off a lot of production. Like they're like, we don't want to spend the money up front. We'll just spend the money later, fix it in post, green screen traditional. And so actually there's a few different studios that are shutting down their LED walls.
We've had a lot of discussion about this because, like I said, I think that this movie is a testament to how wonderful pre-production is. And I think pre-production just makes everything easier, especially like in art and things that move forward.
Yeah.
I'm a photo editor and I constantly complain that, boy, I would have a lot less work if you just like did a little bit of planning before you did something.
Bill Pope is 70.
But yeah, that's the problem with LED walls is they require that you have that pre-production done and that you know that it's going to work seamlessly, or else it does look fake. But it is like a great technology for things like, yeah, the Mandalorian. It looked great on there. It looks great for like putting people into different worlds. But nobody wants to do that because that means that you're stalling on things and it looks like you are not moving forward with a production.
Right. You have to, once you get that funding, you better start or else that funding starts to go away real fast.
I mean, I've watched friends who are like planning scripts and trying to put together things and they're already like coming up with their daily schedules before like the thing is even finished being written. And it's just like one of those things of this feels like it would work better if you just like let the first thing happen. But
yeah, you would think.
But it's something that like nobody really wants to do, and it's very, very unfortunate. And anyways, that was my little mini rant. I love seeing pre-production working.
And I know last time we talked about because of the movie that we watched, we talked about Memento, and think about a movie like that and how much planning and foresight has to go into how, especially the editing. Like you can't just fix it in post. You have to get it, on the shoot day. So
right.
Yeah, and stuff like some of the best movies I think are the most planned out, and that makes a lot of sense.
We'll take it back to the
That's why I love Tarantino. Yeah, Matrix. Yeah.
That Dodge thing that we're like, oh man, that infiltrated the zeitgeist. Like everything made a fun of it. Was it Kung Pao Into the Fist made a cow joke? Everyone made fun of it. That was after months of trial and error of setting up cameras at set distances to get that spin, and just even like Jurassic Park, right? Like they tried that all the VFX for months, and now they don't spend the time. It's cheaper to shoot it. Well, you know what? We don't need an outfit yet. Well, for the Avengers, we'll just put an outfit on them later.
I feel like for Jurassic Park, I always think about that one T-Rex scene where like the plexiglass falls down on the kids, and I feel like everybody saw that and they were like, "Well, that was a mistake, and it turned out great. So let's just go on."
It's in the movie.
It's a great scene, but yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen, and it just
really,
wow.
That
is real fear on those children's faces.
Spielberg does not have a lot of luck with animatronic animals.
Wow.
But we also we watched a few months back. We watched Buster Keaton, who I am a huge fan of, and he also does that same thing of like you spend a lot of time thinking about the trick and then trial and erroring it, and then coming up with the final thing. But you still have to know what you're doing in the first place, and then it's just like adjusting slightly. And even that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a bit of artistry lost in our dependence on computer effects.
Costs money. Time is money. It's one of the reasons I think Jackie Chan stopped doing American movies. Was Jackie Chan famously will do a take 200 times if it means the perfect take. And American movies just aren't built with that kind of budget of get it right. It's get it good enough. We'll fix it later.
But the weird thing is we moved towards VFX before VFX were as cheap as they are now.
It's true.
So they were way more expensive.
Right. But easier than trying to build a giant puppet.
Anyways, this is going way off.
We should talk about the movie.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you said you didn't like Scott. I think that's entirely intentional, right? Like we're not supposed to like Scott at the beginning. He needed to go for it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Oh,
yeah. He kind of starts out dating a high schooler, and then like starts dating this young woman who he just sees delivering packages and kind of insinuates himself into her life by ordering an Amazon package. But so yeah, it's definitely intentional that he's unlikable. It is just a bit strange for like a studio movie to like, and especially one with. Actually, I can't remember what the budget is. I think it was around 80 million or something. But
You are
yeah, I was
correct.
going to say that, like, for a studio movie with a relatively large budget and all of these moving parts and special effects, to have like such an odd character like at the center of it who doesn't really grow as a person in a traditional way. Usually, studio executives would like offer notes or whatever to get rid of that kind of thing and like
I mean,
maybe
how do
learn a lesson or something.
you give notes on this when it's, you know, I'm sure Edgar Wright was like, no, it's perfect. And I disagree.
can't.
I think Scott changes a lot over the course of the movie. I think. Sorry, you were saying. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine. I can't imagine reading a script for this and like really understanding what's going on.
I feel like he just handed the graphic novels to people. And then he was like, and here is the script version of it. And I think that's also why, like, on the Wikipedia page, there's actually a picture of like some of their storyboarding stuff. And it's just the graphic novel. Like they just use the graphic novel as the storyboard.
Which, again, if you're making a, you know, another version of the movie, how is that? That's
Well, hey, that's how anime is done.
Sometimes they cut corners, though.
Well, I mean,
sometimes they just go off crazy places.
That's true. I mean, typically, like if they're doing a straight adaptation from a manga, it comes straight out of the manga. Like, but
no, for sure.
We can talk about anime some other time because I also have a lot of opinions on that specific thing, that specific part of anime.
We have a couple of anime movies on our list, so maybe we'll get to that at some point.
But do we have specifically manga adaptation movies? I don't know if there are many.
There's
of
not
them.
that many that. Yeah, they're usually series.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, yeah, I don't think you're supposed to like Scott. I think he grows as a, you know, because it's all about, like Rebecca said at the beginning, it's about a breakup. At its core, it's him. He rebounds with knives. He doesn't really like knives. He does, you know, he's just kind of figuring it out. He meets Ramona, and now he has to face the consequences, which he's famously runs away from. So he has commitment issues, I guess you could say. And then, yeah, to the point where, he won't get a haircut because last time he got a haircut, the girl broke up with him, coincidentally. So it's probably because of the haircut.
He's just young and immature.
Right.
Yeah. I do think that he grows at the end. I mean, the whole pivotal point of the film is him finding his confidence. So
I think it's him taking responsibility for his actions.
Yeah,
is his huge turning point, but he doesn't get to live in that world. It's like he said the words and it somehow makes everything in this world better, despite the fact that he never actually went through that change.
I see what you're saying. I mean, I do feel like it's earned.
Or rather,
though.
He had
we
to die.
There, right? He had to die to realize he was the bad guy, and he needs to be better.
Right.
He got a life.
Because he got a second shot, he didn't actually have to live with the consequences of his actions because he died.
Or
you can take the metaphorical route of he had to be reborn.
Right.
As a better version of himself. But I think that for him as a character, he doesn't get to, like, he continually made bad decisions until essentially he died and then came back. It doesn't feel like it's character growth as much as it is, congrats, the story's over now. I don't know.
Well, but that was, I think that his death scene was introspective, right? Like it wasn't like a lot of the movie. It's not number 3 didn't actually, or number 5 who is Brandon? What's his name? Superman didn't actually punch a hole in the moon, or did he? Right. The
There is
vegan.
a hole in the moon.
The vegan
The
guy.
whole movie.
There's 2 holes in by the end. Because when he gets uppercutted, technically, yeah. Anyway, yeah. Anyways, I think we had a conversation. Did we? Johnny, not to keep bringing him up, didn't like Michael Cera as the lead.
I also don't like Michael Cera as the lead. He just feels so out of place. Like, simultaneously, he feels like the correct choice. When I'm like thinking about this on paper, Michael Cera feels like the correct choice, but he's surrounded by so many other people that he kind of just looks like an alien to me.
There's so many
Like,
pretty people. The normal guy.
He feels very out of place. Like, this is a world and he is not supposed to be in it. And I don't know how to explain it other than that.
I've seen maybe people from the Hunger Games being him, for example. What's that actor's name?
Yeah, I was going to say, who would you cast in his place?
Perhaps Josh Hutcherson, I think is his name. Perhaps somebody like him.
I'm struggling to think of people from this time frame.
Yeah, because I feel like the reason he was cast was because it was like the height of Michael Cera popularity.
Yes. The year of Michael Cera.
Yeah, he did Superbad and like basically sort of teen, I don't know, young adult movies like that.
Right, he was coming off of Arrested Development.
Yeah, kind of the quintessential normal dorky kid. So
I don't know about Josh Hutcherson, because I think if he's too handsome, it doesn't play. I pitched this before because I think I think he did a great job, but Michael Cera, I mean, I think he is just pitiful enough. I mean, this is a compliment the way he played it, right? Like you feel bad for, like he's doing mean, like he's dating a 17-year-old and you want to hate him, but he's just pitiful enough that you're able to be like, you know, meh.
Yeah, Josh Hutcherson wouldn't have worked. I think I agree with you on. Yeah,
I pitched like a Tom Holland, if it were, if you were trying to make it now, but is Tom Holland too? Andrew Garfield. I'm in Spider-Man world. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I think less about the looks, but more of like the ethos of the character. I think he fits really well because you have to be able to pull off a certain comedic timing and kind of like Ryan was saying about the pitifulness, but also like gaining enough sympathy on the other side of that. So like you don't want to have a lead character who's unlikable because he's so pathetic. He has to be just barely unlikable enough to fit kind of the mental place where he's at the beginning, middle, end of the film, but also still have audience sympathy, which I did not hate him. Just me for one. Like I thought in the beginning he was kind of a dick. And I was like, really, guy? But like you're saying, Ryan, he was also sympathetic because you felt so sorry for him.
He kind of felt like Joe Average, right? Like, I don't know, as a white guy in this era, right? Like, he just kind of felt like a placeholder for, your average slacker kid.
Yeah, I kind of think he was like really good in the role, like in terms of his timing and stuff. And there is actually a bit of insight on the Blu-ray. I can't remember. There's a ton of stuff on this thing. There are like 4 commentary tracks. But so I don't know where I heard this. But Edgar Wright was talking about how funny it was to see Michael Cera fighting people. Like it's just a visual gag of this skinny loser beating people to death, basically. But so I think it succeeds in that sense, but he also said something that I don't remember the details of, but he said that this movie was in development for multiple years, and Michael Cera was kind of his first choice for Scott Pilgrim, but he was too young at the original time when the movie was supposed to be made, but that development took so long that Michael Cera got older and then he was right for the part. But yeah, overall, I think he was pretty good, and like the doing fight scenes on a green screen is a skill. Like it does. Oh yeah, and there are like shots on the Blu-ray of like the fighting training. Edgar Wright went through it with all the actors, and it was a pretty extensive training program. It looks like, but so yeah, I do give Michael Cera credit for being able to do the fights with nothing behind him and stuff like that. Sometimes with no actor. That is
Just
like a
light switch.
commendable skill, I think.
So initially, when they were writing this, they pitched Seth Rogen.
Oh,
A young Seth Rogen
A
coming
young
off of
Seth
Freaks and
Rogen.
Geeks, kind of yeah.
I think it was coming off of Knocked Up.
Oh, he was already too old by Knocked Up.
I think so as well. But like, if it was like, but I think he would have been like on the older edge of the right age. Does that make any sense?
Everyone looks like children
So-
in this. They all look like little babies because they're all super famous now.
So it was initially supposed to be, they were supposed to be filming it in 2008, I think is like 2007, 2008. And so if I use a calculator, because I'm not going to do math and some internet sleuthing, he was 25.
Who, Michael Cera?
No,
Playing
Seth
at
Rogen.
I mean,
Oh, Seth
25
Seth
Rogen
Rogen was 25. when-
25 to
playing
play 22 would work. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the character would have taken such a different, like Seth Rogen would have had such a different approach. I really like Michael Cera's deadpan approach to the delivery, and it works.
Yeah, no, he feels like Scott Pilgrim. When I say that, I don't mean like that he did a bad job. I think he was the appropriate choice. He just feels very alien in this world, and I don't know why.
I don't know. I mean, I think the only other person that would fit would be Jesse. What's his name from the Social Network? Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg.
I thought about him actually as I was watching this because he's.
I always get the two of them mixed up.
Yeah, it's hard to think about one without immediately thinking about the other on accident.
Sort of similar, I guess. There's some differences, but yeah, I can see similarities too. I could have seen him with the Now You See Me movie. I can kind of picture him as being a version of Scott Pilgrim.
I'm a musician at heart. This movie always makes me want to start a band. Even now.
It's the music in this is phenomenal.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was like, oh hell yeah, that song by the Ex-Girlfriends band.
Yeah,
that would have been
Metric.
That's the real band.
That's the real band who wrote that song and performs that song.
Oh, I did not know that.
It's called Metric.
It reminded me so much of that era in like, the emo kind of Paramore, zeitgeist that I was such a little part of.
Yeah, he specifically went out and like found Canadian bands from the Toronto area to play it, and so like it had like he purposely went out. It was done by really well-known people in the music industry, like
I mean, well, Beck, right, is on the Metric. Yeah, it just I don't know. Again, loved the movie. This is the movie that when I watch it makes me want to make a movie. It's just the energy of the scenes, the writing is so it's very fast, which I think I'm getting old now because even I was just like, wait, what's up? Oh yeah, right, yeah.
I definitely rewound a couple scenes.
To
rewatch again.
It's a fun movie.
Jokes.
But yeah, I
wanted to see again.
It makes me nostalgic for music as well. When I was in high school and I was in band, I had a little cover band with some friends of mine, and it makes me miss those days.
Well,
I'm trying to convince Ryan to buy a guitar.
I saw it with a bunch of housemates, and the guy that owned the place actually had a band with a studio that was up back of the house. So yeah, it seemed very appropriate that was the first time I saw this movie. I just found a copy of it online somewhere. I don't know. Probably downloaded it, streamed it.
Awesome.
I.W. Neal. So many good. Wait, Bill Hader. Oh, Bill Hader was the voice. Oh, snap. I didn't realize that.
I also didn't realize that.
Voice of
Thomas, just the voice.
The voice. Occasionally there would just be like words that showed up.
Right.
And
Oh,
then
the little-
there would be a voice that just came up and said them. It would just be like, and now it is time. And then it would just like be a bunch of bands getting on the stage. And I'm like, time for what?
Oh.
Tell me more, mystery voice.
Well, and that was Bill Hader.
And
I
then
literally
later,
just
apparently.
watched this movie 2 hours ago, and I do not remember that.
It's because he did such a good job that you just thought it was your internal monologue.
Maybe, yeah. There's just so much going on. There's only so many things you can pay attention to at once.
Mhm.
Absolutely. A part of me wonders, like, if part of the reason why I think that this movie is good is just because, like, of how fast it's moving that I don't have time to, like, comprehend. It's like in circus where we always made the joke of if you spin fast enough, no one can see that you're making a mistake.
That's true. Yeah, it's so fast paced. Like it's kind of against what movies are now. Like nobody does that. Like I was thinking that throughout watching the movie. Like so many movies now are like, okay, big fight and then long break where people like chill out and then they prep for the next fight and then it takes a while to get there. But this one's just like fight. Like I was like taken aback for a second. I was like, whoa.
I mean, just
It's one of the reasons I like children's movies. They get straight to the point. We watched Puss in Boots, and everybody loves like the newest Puss in Boots, and my dad also watched it, and he was like, I don't know if it's actually good or if it just moves consistently.
it just doesn't matter. Just keep the story going.
Just
going.
It just keeps your attention by dangling the carrot.
Oh man.
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Well, it was good.
I have heard.
Does everyone have a favorite scene or like gag or joke out of curiosity?
I actually enjoy the hat gag.
Oh,
anytime
where
anybody mentions it just like flips around back to him and he's just immediately wearing a hat, and it's consistent throughout the entire movie that if you say hair, it'll cut away from him and then he'll have the hat on.
It's pretty good.
I liked seeing all the little details that they included, like the Sid t-shirt. And and then there was another t-shirt. Oh, the Zero. I was like, Smashing Pumpkins. Like so just
But
like
he's
all
also, he's
Also what?
ex-boyfriend Zero.
that is true. I didn't
Everyone has a number,
I
and
didn't even
he's
think of that. Yeah. But also Billy Corgan. So but yeah, I enjoyed all those little references and like the Legend of Zelda theme song in the beginning and yeah, which they referenced again later, which I liked. It was like a drawback, or not a drawback, but like a callback.
Nerd.
He would also change his shirt to match Ramona's hair. There's a few scenes where he'll see Ramona and then come back with a different shirt on. Same scene, you don't even notice because it's so fast.
I do think they should have changed her hair more.
Well, she changes it every second Wednesday.
Yeah, every 2 weeks.
Yeah, every 2 weeks.
But it was every second Wednesday.
Yes.
Specifically.
Yeah, I wanted there to be at least one more color. I think that would have been
maybe in the extended cut. Release the 3-hour cut. How long was this movie?
Well, I feel like you have to
minutes?
extend the
Short.
You just have to extend it out like another 2 weeks.
Right. Well, see, we need the post-credit sequence of them in America. I don't know. I need to reread the comic book.
But yeah, like as for like my favorite parts, I definitely liked the window jumping, like people mentioned earlier. I also really liked, I think it's basically the title sequence where they play their first song and then the room elongates.
Mhm.
And
Oh
that was
yeah.
done practically as well. The room was actually very long. At least, I think at least for that shot, they said they made a special room that was very long, and they made an L to the side to like put the camera in it. I don't know. I would have to like rewatch some of it to figure out what was going on. But yeah, I liked those parts, and yeah, to be honest, like near the end, it does kind of wear me out a little bit. Like just the fast paced scene of the fights and like
Mm-hmm.
um so I don't remember much about like the ending, I guess. Or like the final fight or stuff like that. But I had like people were saying like the dialogue is also just very quick. Like it has
Mhm.
the pacing, the dialogue has like the pacing of like if you watch 1940s comedies, like what is that one? His Girl Friday or Bringing Up Baby or like Howard Hawks movies. Basically, like everybody just talked very fast in the 1940s. At least that's what movies tell me. But
The transatlantic accent.
yeah, yeah, movies where people talk like that, and that the dialogue was just very quick, just like the fight scenes.
Yeah, I feel like it made the dialogue like it makes it hard to remember any moments of dialogue. Which I was cracking up at the dialogue the whole time. I thought it was hilarious, and the pacing and the timing was really good as far as the comedy delivery. But it's hard to remember what was said. There weren't any like standout moments of, oh yeah, when this person said that. Like I don't really. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun to watch, but
I'm in lesbians with you. Love. Damn it.
That was funny.
I said lesbians. My favorite like throwaway gag. It's Scott sitting with his sister Anna Kendrick, and she's like, "Well, you know, you had to fight her 11 evil boyfriends," and she's like, or he says, "No, it was only 7." She's like, "Oh, well, that's not that bad," which just implies
Which
that this is
implies
just
that there's a lot of evil
this
exes
is what
going around.
this is
just
what dating
normal.
is. Yeah, it's you overcoming past baggage.
What do
I
you
like-
think the message that Gideon gave all the other exes? Was he just like, "Hey, join my league"?
Well, the
Because
question.
he says that he was in a bad place when he created the League of Evil Exes, and I'm like, that means you had to dig up Ramona's past, say that she kissed a boy once in 7th grade, and be like, that counts as an ex. Come fight for me.
Well, he says it took him 2 hours to call everybody. Do you know how long this took? I had to spend 2 hours. I also chalk it up to he does mind control with his, he's manipulative, or is it actual mind control?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
literally
so-
has in my head that part.
so was he controlling the exes, or did
That's
he
what I'm
actually
saying.
convince them? Yeah.
Was he just, again, symbolic of a manipulative ex-boyfriend who she
Mhm.
can't say no to?
I don't know,
Or
for
is he an
people who
evil
like
genius?
constantly talk about like plot holes and things, like, this is such a great movie. We don't know anything about what's happening.
Reality is fluid. People, I think, was it the first the first boyfriend only gave him like $2.70
Yeah,
or
not
something
enough
like
for the
that.
bus.
Oh, not even enough for the bus.
I do like that his Scott's past is brought up for like a split second and then never thought of again. Like, oh, and that's, you want to see where I used to live? Oh, there it is.
It's
That's
right over
it.
there.
And that's all we get.
They made a tie-in animated, was it Titmouse, the Adult Swim company? They made an animated prequel that was released in time of the movie, where it just goes basically about him dating Kim, and yeah, all that fun stuff.
I thought Kim was pretty funny too.
Kim was great.
Yeah, she's
Just
If your life had a face, I'd punch it. I think that was one of my favorite.
That was her catchphrase.
I think I've quoted that before. Or not. If X had a face, I'd punch it.
Yeah, she was a great character.
Lucas Lee and his stunt team beating up on Scott. Just what's it? They kill him. He's like, well, that's a wrap. Yeah.
Like with the uniform and
Fun movie.
everything.
Is it
Fun
again?
movie.
Solid
Good pick.
flick.
Yeah.
Didn't deserved so much better. I wish more movies were like it. We don't get this kind of it's a high budget surrealist romantic comedy.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I was thinking the whole time, just like the surrealism of it all. And so it's intentional that you don't know whether it's happening in his head or happening in reality. Like, and it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Should Scott have ended up with knives? I think when I saw it originally in 2010, I thought he should have ended up with knives. Just because,
she deserves better.
She does deserve better. She can do. She's way cooler.
She had way more character development of finding her place than
punched her
did.
highlights out.
Maybe she and Neil could have wound up together. Knives and Neil. Young Neil.
Think they do.
They don't.
They don't end up together?
No.
I could have seen them as a couple, though, I guess.
Yeah, they do not. I'm sorry to inform you.
She only dated him.
Who owns all these.
In the comics she doesn't either?
Right, she's only using him, but like if she actually liked him for real, maybe they could have been good together.
Yeah,
I think that they are all just good friends. Yeah.
Fair.
It would have been a relationship built on that. And that is exactly what Scott's relationship with her was kind of built on. So
fair.
Yeah.
Which is not a good foundation.
How did they meet? How did Scott and Knives even meet?
On the
I
bus.
assume at the arcade. Oh, he does say she was on the bus with her mom.
Oh, with her mom.
Story, she's in the middle of like gawking.
See, you say this movie has plot holes. It's all there. All the details are there. You just got to pick up on them.
And we know he takes the bus because he didn't get enough from Matthew Patel.
That's true.
Wasn't that one of the deleted scenes where he meets her on the bus and she's carrying all those books? Like
she says it. She tells it as a story to Ramona.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
When Anna Kendrick asks how she even met Scott. Or maybe Ramona does. One of them asks and she says, yeah, I was on the bus with my mom. And they were just like, with your mom?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Only 17.
Jailbait.
Well, they almost held hands once. They did kiss eventually, but still.
Yeah.
Well,
Good
we're coming up on an hour here. Is there anything else anyone would like to observe about
some
the
final
film?
thoughts?
It's just ahead of its time. The attention spans are so short now, and this is the perfect film for that.
This would be a great film for the Zoomer generation,
right?
It doesn't feel as short as you said. It was what, 115 minutes?
Yeah, 112.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that short.
It moves. There's not a dull moment. Like there's no lag. There's some quiet tea times with the soul, but there's no drag. Although again, I think I mentioned before, weird to see try to remember a world without cell phones. I guess there was. No, wait, Wallace had a cell phone. He had a flip phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just didn't have smartphones.
They just
Yeah, back when cell phones were not ubiquitous. Only a few people had them.
And the gag where he's texting while unconscious. The camera, the panel opens just a little bit, and you see that he has his phone. So good.
Wallace is a great character.
Visual language is just.
Yeah. Wallace is the best character.
He is, but just the timing, the editing is so. The jokes.
Yeah.
I think there are any that don't land, but anyway. I could keep going on. I'll just keep gushing about how great the movie is, and
We'll all just get off, and you can just stay on
Yeah.
here talking about how much you love the movie.
yeah. In fact, let's just watch the
Talking to
movie, and
nobody.
let's do a commentary track of us watching the movie
Start it right now, all 112
Mhm.
minutes of it.
We'll make
We'll
it a free add-on download.
for the Patreon subscribers. You can.
Exactly. We do have a Patreon.
Hey, speaking of which,
I don't talk about it. I should talk about it more, but yeah. If anybody watching would like to support the stuff we do here, subscribe to our Patreon.
We could actually do commentary tracks on Patreon as well. One of the reasons why we have to watch movies separately is because we can't watch movies live on a call without getting some copyright infringement.
Yeah, that would be a great bonus to have, like, I don't know, if you care about our opinions.
We'd have to like work on our we'd have to work on like our tightness. So like
so you're saying we gotta like do a Mystery Science Theater where we watch it repeatedly and we pitch a couple different jokes.
So someone makes a joke, and then it's the next person's time to make a joke.
Right.
And then you just have to cycle it through like that.
Right. We have to watch it a bunch of times to make sure. Yeah. Okay, great.
Well, awesome, guys. I think we are going to call this one. So thank you for coming on and discussing this movie with us. And to everybody watching, thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll see you on the next one. Make sure to get in the Facebook group to see what that's going to be.
Yeah. And if you have a suggestion, put it in the suggestion box.
Yep. Also pinned in the Facebook group. All right, guys. Goodbye.
Bye. Take it to the comments.